From the outside, royalty is a life many dream of: gowns, palaces, diamonds, red carpets, global adoration. But behind the glittering veil of Denmark's monarchy lies a story not many truly know. For over 20 years, Queen Mary of Denmark has carried a burden most could never imagine. A woman once labeled the outsider, who left her homeland of Australia, who gave up her career, her privacy, and her freedom to marry a prince, now stands not just as a queen, but as the beating heart of a nation. Today, Queen Mary is no longer merely enduring the pain. She's finally tasting the dignity, respect, and recognition she earned through years of quiet suffering. And make no mistake, she is enjoying every second of it. It's easy to look at Queen Mary today and believe her royal life was always this majestic. But rewind the clock 2 decades and the picture becomes dramatically different. When Mary Donaldson first met Crown Prince Frederik of Denmark at a Sydney pub during the 2000 Olympics, she could never have anticipated how radically her life would change. Their romance was quiet, secretive, and for years, scrutinized. Danish royal watchers initially questioned whether a commoner from Tasmania could handle the weight of royal duty. The press labeled her too modern, too Australian, and even too ambitious. But Mary stayed silent. She didn't speak back. She watched, endured, smiled. Even after marrying into the Danish royal family in a spectacular ceremony in 2004, Mary faced unrelenting criticism. She wasn't born into this life. She didn't have noble lineage. And worst of all for traditionalists, she had a strong voice. A voice that didn't shrink. A voice that, despite its softness, carried conviction. But she knew that speaking too loudly too soon would only deepen the cracks in her public image. So she did what queens have done for centuries. She learned, she adapted, and she waited. With poise. Those early years of marriage were marked by massive transitions. Not only was she adjusting to life in a foreign country, but she was also learning the delicate balance between being a wife and being a future queen. And then came the motherhood years. Mary gave birth to 4 children: Christian, Isabella, and the twins, Vincent and Josephine, earning admiration from Danish citizens for embracing her family with genuine love and strength. But behind the palace doors, things weren't always easy. Speculation about King Frederik's loyalty began almost as soon as they married. European tabloids, especially in France and Germany, ran frequent stories alleging that Frederik was not always emotionally present in the marriage. Rumors circulated of late-night outings, solo vacations, and emotionally distant behavior. Still, Queen Mary never addressed these reports. She remained the calm in the storm, the image of control and composure. What the public didn't always see were the silent sacrifices Mary made daily. From abandoning her personal dreams to navigating a royal court deeply rooted in tradition, she often found herself fighting battles behind the scenes. Her ideas were sometimes met with resistance. Her accent remained a topic of gossip among purists. And yet, Mary pressed on. She learned Danish fluently, she studied constitutional law, she deepened her understanding of Danish history and royal tradition. She never just wore the crown, she grew into it, layer by layer, through trial and error. But it wasn't just about adapting. Mary wasn't content being a decorative queen. From the very beginning, she wanted her role to have meaning. And so, she launched the Mary Foundation, a groundbreaking initiative focused on domestic violence, loneliness, and bullying. Through her foundation, she met women who were suffering silently, just as she once had. In the gilded halls of Amalienborg, in those women, she saw her younger self, isolated, doubted, silenced. And in helping them, she healed herself. As the years rolled on, Queen Mary began carving out a space for herself in Danish society not just as a royal figurehead, but as a transformative leader. She represented Denmark on international stages with grace and strength. She traveled across the globe, advocating for women's rights, health initiatives, and children's welfare. And slowly, the whispers faded. The same voices that once questioned her right to be queen now applauded her diplomacy and strength. But all of this came at a cost. Behind every public smile was the weight of private challenges. Whispers of emotional distance in her marriage persisted. Some insiders hinted that Mary and Frederik led largely separate lives. Others suggested that while Mary focused on duty and service, Frederik was often restless, weighed down by the expectations of being king in waiting. Their chemistry at public events sometimes felt more like a well-rehearsed dance than a display of true affection. And yet, Queen Mary never let it show. She knew what was at stake. Her duty to Denmark was greater than any personal hurt. The defining moment came on January 14, 2024. Queen Margrethe II shocked the world by abdicating the throne, passing the crown to her son, now King Frederik X. And just like that, Mary, once called the outsider, became Denmark's first Australian-born queen. The road had been long, but the destination was real. She stood on that palace balcony, next to her husband, before thousands of cheering Danes, not just as a queen by marriage, but as a queen by merit. And in that moment, something shifted. The look in her eyes was different. There was pride, yes. But there was also quiet satisfaction. For the first time in 2 decades, Queen Mary wasn't just enduring. She was thriving. The suffering, the loneliness, the sacrifices, they had not been in vain. She had arrived, fully. Now, as queen, Mary is showing Denmark what modern monarchy can truly mean. Her fashion choices are bold, symbolic, sometimes breaking royal tradition to honor her Australian roots. She wears Aboriginal-inspired jewelry. She includes Danish-Australian communities in her engagements. She travels independently, meets world leaders with assertiveness, and delivers speeches with clear vision. She is no longer asking for a seat at the table. She is building the table. Her marriage with King Frederik has also taken a new shape. While rumors still occasionally flare, the public now sees a couple who, despite everything, chose to remain united. Their bond may not be perfect, but it's real. They are parents, partners, rulers, and survivors of public scrutiny. And perhaps that is what makes their story so powerful. It's not a fairy tale, it's a lesson in resilience. Mary now enjoys the respect she once had to fight for. She is admired not just in Denmark, but around the world. Australian media call her the Jewel of Tasmania. European leaders respect her diplomatic edge. Younger royals across Scandinavia look to her as a mentor. And most importantly, Danish citizens feel seen and heard through her actions. She attends events not just as a figurehead, but as a listener. She hugs children, speaks to victims, comforts widows, and celebrates milestones with sincerity. Her presence feels different, earned, grounded, and deeply authentic. She laughs more now. She walks taller. She smiles with her whole face. And those who doubted her 2 decades ago, many now see her as the soul of the Danish crown. It's no coincidence that Denmark's royal popularity has surged in recent years. Queen Mary is a key reason why. In an era where monarchies are increasingly under fire for being outdated, Mary has infused modernity, empathy, and action into every aspect of her queenship. She's not interested in being worshipped, she's interested in serving. And while the journey to this point has been marked by heartbreak, loss, and loneliness, Mary has emerged stronger. The suffering she endured was never publicized in detail, but its echoes were always present, in her eyes, in her careful words, in her posture. But now, those echoes are fading. She no longer walks in the shadow of doubt. She walks in purpose. She walks as the queen who earned her place. In today's world, where authenticity is rare and strength is often masked by spectacle, Queen Mary is a reminder that true power comes from perseverance. She didn't demand respect, she earned it. And now, as she basks in the joy of recognition, there is no bitterness, only fulfillment. She is enjoying the life she built, brick by brick, often in silence, but always with purpose. And perhaps that is the most powerful message of all. You can be wounded and still rise. You can be underestimated and still conquer. You can suffer and still shine. Queen Mary is living proof of that truth. Her story is not just about royalty. It's about every woman who was once told she wasn't enough, who was judged before she had a chance to prove herself, who stood still and quiet as the world mocked her, and who, against all odds, became unstoppable. Now, as the cameras flash and the anthems play, Queen Mary smiles, not because she must, but because she knows. She knows that everything she endured led her here. And this time, she's not just surviving. She's soaring. As Queen Mary of Denmark walks through the grand halls of the royal palace today, her every step echoes not only with the legacy of centuries of Danish monarchs, but also with the whispers of her own transformation, whispers that speak of determination, resilience, and grace under relentless pressure. Hers is not the story of a woman who simply married into royalty, it is the tale of a woman who transformed the very idea of what it means to be royal. The truth is, Queen Mary didn't inherit a kingdom, she earned it. And in doing so, she forever changed the face of the Danish monarchy. For years, the world watched her, scrutinized her every move, every outfit, every glance. She was constantly compared to other European royals, some of noble birth, others born into aristocratic bloodlines. But Mary was the daughter of a mathematics professor and an executive assistant. She grew up in suburban Australia, never imagining that one day she would reign over one of Europe's oldest monarchies. Yet here she is, leading not just with grace, but with purpose. Her ascent isn't a fairy tale, it's a testament to the power of self-discipline, to the strength found in silence, to the quiet battles fought behind palace doors, where no camera can capture the tears or the sacrifices. A testament to knowing when to speak, and when to wait. And Mary, perhaps more than any modern royal, mastered the art of patience. For 2 decades, she walked a delicate line between being modern and remaining traditional, between following protocol and reshaping it. She had to smile through personal storms, to nod in approval when her instincts screamed to rebel, to raise children in the spotlight while protecting their innocence. Her life wasn't just a balancing act, it was a crucible. What makes Mary's rise even more compelling is the emotional toll it undoubtedly took on her behind the scenes. She was, after all, a foreigner. She arrived in Denmark with an accent, unfamiliar with the language, unfamiliar with the cultural nuances, and placed under immediate and intense scrutiny. While royal insiders whispered in corners and questioned her suitability, Mary worked. She read, she studied, she listened. And slowly, she turned those whispers into applause. Perhaps one of the most powerful moments in Queen Mary's journey was her evolution as a mother. Even as she juggled intense public responsibilities, Mary poured her heart into raising her 4 children, not just as heirs to a crown, but as individuals with values. Her maternal instincts were often visible during public engagements, when she gently corrected her children at official ceremonies, when she held their hands tightly during appearances, when she gave them room to grow but also firm guidance. Danish citizens saw not just a queen, but a mother. And in that, they found someone deeply human. Her eldest son, Prince Christian, is now stepping into the limelight. And watching him today, polite, articulate, and composed, many attribute his poise to Mary's steady hand. She raised him not to feel entitled to the crown, but to be worthy of it. That in itself speaks volumes about her long-term vision, not just for her children, but for the future of the Danish monarchy. But behind these public displays of harmony, the relationship between Queen Mary and King Frederik has been the subject of endless tabloid speculation. Stories of emotional disconnect, of Frederik's struggles with royal confinement, and of Mary's lonely moments have swirled for years. Some reports painted Frederik as the carefree royal, reluctant to bear the burdens of leadership, while Mary was described as the steady anchor, reliable, structured, focused. Whether these reports are true or exaggerated, they tap into something deeper, the burden royal women often carry. While male royals are forgiven their flaws, labeled as charming or human, royal women, especially Queen's consort, are expected to be flawless. Any sign of emotional wear or disagreement becomes a scandal. Yet through it all, Mary never lost her composure. Even if the rumors hurt, she never let the world see the cracks. There's an undeniable power in that kind of silence. A power that says, "You may doubt me, but I know who I am." And now, as Queen, Mary doesn't need to prove herself anymore. She's already done it, through 2 decades of service, of dedication, of putting others before herself. Her every move now is laced with the authority she once had to earn inch by inch. And perhaps what is most surprising about Queen Mary's reign so far is how effortlessly she has infused modern values into an ancient institution. Whether it's championing mental health awareness, advocating for gender equality, or focusing on sustainable fashion, Mary does not just represent tradition, she redefines it. She has become the perfect bridge between the old world and the new. Consider her international engagements. Unlike many royals who stick to ceremonial niceties, Mary dives deep. When she visits refugee camps, she doesn't just shake hands, she listens. When she attends women's conferences, she doesn't just smile, she speaks, and powerfully so. Her words carry weight, not because of her crown, but because of her credibility. Mary has also become a style icon, not in the shallow sense of magazine covers, but in how she uses fashion to send subtle political messages. Rewearing old dresses to promote sustainability, wearing Australian designers to honor her roots, choosing bold colors to reflect national pride. Every piece she wears tells a story. Every public appearance feels intentional. Even her body language has evolved. Once reserved and careful, she now walks into rooms with unmistakable presence. Her chin is higher, her voice more assured. She no longer blends in, she leads. And in doing so, she's inspiring a new generation of women, not just in Denmark, but around the world. There's also the undeniable emotional element of her journey that resonates deeply with everyday people. Mary is the woman who gave up everything for love and then rebuilt herself piece by piece. The woman who entered a world she didn't belong to, and made herself indispensable. The woman who once quietly cried in private and now holds audiences spellbound with her speeches. And it's this emotional arc, of hardship, endurance, and ultimate empowerment, that makes her story so compelling. Because it's not just about royalty. It's about humanity, about grit, about fighting for your place when no one gives it to you. It's also worth noting how profoundly Mary's rise has affected Denmark's image on the world stage. Once viewed as a quiet, traditional monarchy, Denmark now boasts one of the most respected and admired royal couples in Europe, largely due to Mary's efforts. Her diplomatic poise has opened doors. Her charitable work has softened critics. Her authenticity has won hearts. In Australia, Queen Mary is viewed not just as a national hero, but as a global ambassador. Schools study her journey. Young girls look up to her. Politicians reference her speeches. She is proof that greatness can come from humble beginnings, and that love, though it may be tested, can build empires. There is also a poetic beauty to her story, of a woman who left home and found her destiny across the world. Of a girl from Tasmania who became the soul of a Scandinavian kingdom. Of someone once underestimated, now standing among queens and world leaders as an equal, as a force, as an icon. And now, as the years unfold, Queen Mary's legacy is only growing. She's preparing the next generation, guiding Prince Christian, mentoring Princess Isabella, and shaping the monarchy not just for survival, but for relevance. Her touch is everywhere, from modernizing traditions to supporting minority communities to highlighting issues like domestic abuse and youth mental health. This is not the work of a ceremonial figurehead. This is the work of a true leader. It's clear that Queen Mary is not just enjoying the present, she's building the future. With every ribbon she cuts, every speech she delivers, every hand she holds, she writes a new chapter of the Danish monarchy. A chapter that future queens may look back on and thank her for. A chapter that says power doesn't come from a title, it comes from purpose. And while the world continues to change, and monarchies across Europe face existential questions, Queen Mary has already answered them. She has made herself indispensable, not by birthright, but by earning it. Not through noise, but through impact. And not for show, but for substance. So the next time you see her on a balcony, waving to thousands, remember, you are not seeing a woman who had it all handed to her. You are seeing a woman who worked, who suffered, who waited, and who rose, quietly, powerfully, and permanently. Queen Mary's story is not just a royal tale. It's a reminder to everyone watching that pain can shape us, but it doesn't have to break us. That with time, courage, and patience, even the most unlikely paths can lead to extraordinary destinies. And now, as Queen Mary stands at the pinnacle of her journey, we ask you, how will you turn your struggles into strength? How will you build a legacy from pain? How will you rise? If her story moved you, speak up. Like, comment, and share this video to inspire others. Let Queen Mary's resilience remind the world that the crown doesn't define the queen defines the crown.